My topic today is the power of systems thinking. But before jumping into complexities or systems thinking, let's just make a bit of a scanning of the world today. What is the state of the art at the moment? And I have to say that I'm a little bit surprised or even shocked to see how the global governance system is collapsing. It's actually paralyzed, almost collapsing. The whole rule-based governance system is in very big troubles. And that is very sad because that's the most important force for stability. And now the question is that how did this happen? I don't know about you, but I should be able to give you some answers because I'm a political scientist by profession, and that's what the university and other stakeholders pay me for the analysis, for understanding, somebody to tell the big picture, what is going on, what are the root causes of these problems. But I cannot say. Of course, I can say something, but I don't have let's say, the comprehensive overall answer to these complex questions. And there's a reason for that, because, the world looks like that, the picture you can see on the wall. We are surrounded by scattered data and information that really doesn't form a clear pattern. And, you receive lots of news feeds every day and emails and analyses, and you go to social media platforms and you receive bits and pieces, but is there really a cognitive capability to analyze and understand what this is all about? And I would say no. And that's one of the biggest problems today, is the information overload. And that is a vast overload of information. Somebody calculated that every day there are 350 billion emails sent back and forth. 350 billion emails every day, and vast amount of information, scattered, fragmented information. Something needs to be done. Of course, easier said than done. Approximately 6 years ago, I had an experience, I would call it an academic near-death experience. Academically, I almost died because I got so frustrated with the analysis that I was doing, the typical reductionist way of seeing the world, analyzing smaller and smaller parts of the world and trying to understand the big picture by, aggregating these to the whole. But then I realized that, the world doesn't work that way. The whole is more than some of its parts, and that is that's one of the key slogans or statements of systems thinking. You have to see the world holistically from the systems perspective in order to understand really what the dynamics is all about. You cannot reduce it to the smaller parts and then aggregate it. It doesn't work that way. And it's a bit of a problem because the whole scientific world is built on analysis, reductionist way of doing analysis. Our policy-making processes are reductionist. Our law drafting processes are reductionist. The whole world around is reductionist, while the problems are wicked and complex. Mismatch. So that's typically me. I've been doing policy analysis for quite some years, and it's me in the box explaining it to my clients or stakeholders that, when you emphasize, when you put some effort to A, it will lead to B, whether it was an efficiency or the quality of the work or whatever. And trying to convince them that it world works that way. Of course, because that's what I was paid for. But then always in these events, there was somebody who raised his or her hand and said, well, I think the world out there is a bit more messy than you want us to understand. And I was on a total denial for quite some years, saying, no, you just have to understand the logic of this causal inference, and that's the way it works. But little by little, I didn't believe myself. I was like listening my own speech and saying that that's not true. You are not telling the truth. And then one day I decided to contact the rector of the University of Vaasa. And I told him, Jari Kuusisto at that time, that, would it be possible to establish a new research group based on systems thinking and complexity? He was listening to me. He wasn't very convinced in the beginning, of course. But then little by little, he understood that there's something in that thinking, let's give a try. Let's give a try. And we established a research group called Complexity Research Group to have a systems view on societal problems. And that's how we started, and that's where I'm still working in that field. The whole idea of systems thinking and complexity is to understand the relationship between the whole and the part. And the parts of the system are very strongly interconnected. And the change emerges from these interaction patterns. That's the way it goes. So in order to understand the systems dynamics, you need to understand the parts, but you need to understand the interrelations between the parts. And you need to understand the emergence caused by those interactions. And that is wonderful, because when you start doing that, little by little, you understand the dynamics of the system, and that's a kind of a starting point for analysis and explanations later on. There's a wonderful book actually written by Donella Meadows, Thinking in Systems. And that's from that book. She says that, before you disturb any system, study its beat, understand its rhythm, learn how it behaves, and then make an intervention. What do we do at the moment? We have like sticks and carrots, and we just see where we can make the intervention without thinking the effects or impacts, or even reason to intervene. Sometimes the best answer is not to intervene at all. There's a wonderful term in Taoist thinking. It's called Wu Wei. Effortless action. Effortless action. And that's how you behave in systems. You understand the energy and dynamics of the system, and you go along, and then you just nudge the system, just a little bit to steer it, not to make these radical, interventions. The second quote from Einstein, of course, one of the Einstein quotes is that we cannot solve the problems of today with the same kind of thinking that we created these problems in the first place. What we are doing at the moment, we are time and again trying to use the same sticks and carrots, whether it's regulation or financing or information steering, without understanding the nature of the problems. And that doesn't work that way. Next time when you get panicked or when you get frustrated about the complexity and chaos, just, pause. Don't do anything. Step back, listen, and try to understand the system. Start connecting the dots and see the big picture. And then make your decision whether to intervene or exist. Thank you.